Coach, we've already had the opportunity to talk about the correct stance and position. We've talked about the arm swing, and we've covered some timing. Now let's get into the releases and, of course, the finish position as well. But I know that you have the 3 M's already set up, the 3 different releases that you like to go to.
Incidentally, I think becoming a good player is much like being a good Major League Baseball pitcher. You have to have more than one release to fit all the different lane conditions out there. The first one we call, of the 3 M's, we call the minimum position. Or we call it also the motionless position. And that's where we take the thumb and we put it in toward 10 o'clock and we relax the wrist, we break the wrist. As we swing back and through, we keep the thumb in toward the wallet and we do not move the thumb, we keep it motionless. This is to allow the ball to roll end for end more, to keep it on line, to take the hook out of the shot, to make the accuracy become the predominant factor. So that you can roll the ball more on a dry lane surface, and you can also become more accurate on your spares. A lot of people use the more of the broken wrist, thumb in, less hand action for more accuracy for a straighter shot.
All right, let's move from now minimum to what you call medium wrist position.
And this is the one that most people start with, and when they first start bowling, because we teach to get the hand underneath. Straight wrist, not broken, not cupped, but straight. And then straight here on the inside, from the little finger to the elbow, we keep everything straight. Thumb straight up at 12 o'clock. Everything's in a medium position. And what we do is we keep it at 12 o'clock. Then we call this the 2-inch turn. Right at release point, we turn the fingers 2 inches, keeping the thumb up at all times, never allowing the thumb to turn down. Always keeping the thumb up, and we just rotate the fingers 2 inches. So we have medium wrist. Keep this nice and straight, which is medium. Well, medium rotation, best for when the lanes are medium. And that's why most people say, well, I don't like it when the lanes are too oily. I don't like it when the lanes are too dry. It's because they have the medium release.
Sure. All right, now let's try and open the lane up a little bit. The more contemporary player, they want to hook the ball a little bit more, so they have to go for the maximum release.
Probably the most misunderstood release that people use in our sport. And the reason for that, I think, is a term that was coined a lot of years ago called the turn. Boy, does that person turn the ball. And I think the turn has been thought of in this position. If you notice, my thumb's pointed down. We never want the thumb pointed down. What we do is we get that medium position and we cock the fingers left and we cup the wrist, keeping the thumb up. Now we keep the thumb up in that position, then we straighten the fingers out, or the frisbee release. It's not a turn down or a turn around, but it's an uncocking of the wrist, so you just snap the wrist through. So you just snap the fingers through and straighten the wrist up, which puts the revolutions on the ball without turning it over the top. Probably what most people have thought is turn is where they get to turn around the ball instead of just turn underneath it and snap those fingers through with a frisbee action, and boy, can you put the big heavy roll on that maximum position.
Coach, I fooled around with that from time to time through the years, and I don't have the strongest of forearms of wrist, and at times it does tire you out, and it may not be for everybody.
Well, there's a couple reasons for that, Denny. First of all, if you try to cup your wrist and keep this straight, it won't work. In fact, you can get a little carpal tunnel pull there. What you have to do is turn the fingers sideways. That takes the pull out of the wrist, and then cup it up. And or to use a little bit of a modified version, or in between, say, medium and maximum.
Well, I was just going to say, you've given us the 3 M's, but you could maybe have 8 or 10 different releases depending on where you wanted to dial that in.
Now you're talking. Now we call that fine-tuning the wrist and hand action to the lane surface. And teaching yourself great feel with your release will make you improve your average and your ability to play different lanes by practicing the different releases. Put the time into practicing, your sense and feel will come alive, and then you'll automatically, oh, the lanes are a little oily, I'm going to put a little more on it. The lanes are a little dry, I'm going to take a little off. Oh, the lanes are medium. So we suggest go out, start in a medium position, add a little bit or subtract a little bit.
Okay. Now, we've talked about the positions. What about release? What actually happens when the ball comes off your hand?
Well, release happens in 3 stages. 3 basic things happen. And what we do, when the arm comes down to the bottom of the swing, and we hit the bottom of the swing, right at the bottom of the arc, we should consciously think about and practice then for 10 or 15 minutes when you first start to work on the field with the release. Drop the thumb out right at the bottom of the arc, right as the airplane starts to land.
Okay.
Drop that thumb out. Then you impart your wrist or finger action, or you impart nothing. You're trying to keep it still if you're working on the minimum.
Right.
And then right on the end, the fingers, if you're using the maximum, naturally you feel the fingers snap closed into the palm of your hand, and you lift for the ceiling with your swing. If you're working on the minimum, then it would be the fingers come open and you don't feel the arm hit up. You sort of just relax it and let it roll off your hand.
All right, Coach, well, we started at the beginning of the approach. Now we're all the way to the finish position. I know there are 4 different points, but let's start with the side view, I guess what you'd like to see in the finish position.
Yes, Denny, you could remove yourself and stand over far away and watch yourself finish at the foul line and release the ball. And when you release that ball, what we'd like to see is a plumb bob right off the nose, which goes from the nose right over the knee right to the toe. And you stay right there with a nice straight line, a nice balanced position. In fact, we have people all the time that ask us to say, well, you know, I get a little soreness up here in my left thigh, my left leg. Now, what causes that? Well, this is the position you need to work on. If you feel any stress here, what's happening is you hit that release position, hang on to the ball a little long, get your head and shoulders out over the foul line too far, and now the heel comes up off the floor, causing a real tightness in that left thigh by getting them head and shoulders out too far, not keeping that plumb bob from the nose right over the knee, right to the toe.
And you could probably do almost the opposite, too, where you see a lot of players that pull up a little bit at the line.
That rear up and pull back. So when you rear up and pull back, you've also lost that line. It also causes you to loft the ball. If you loft the ball a lot, work on keeping your head and shoulders in position, staying right over that foot, and then you won't pull up and loft the ball out onto the line.
Let's move on now to the back to front view, and I know you like to utilize the clock in order to describe that.
Yes, if we had a clock standing up right here at the foul line, we could picture the left foot straight down at 6 o'clock. My head's right up at 12, and this is a straight line. My head, my knee, my foot. Now I have my right leg, and I put it over at 7 o'clock, and my arm up at 1. It's a diagonal line across the body, 7 to 1. So it's 7 to 1 and 12 to 6.
All right, turn it around. If you were left-handed, where would you be on the dial?
Now what we would have is we'd have that left arm here at 11 o'clock, and then diagonally this foot would be right over at 5. So we have 11 and 5. Oh, I like that. Maybe I ought to be switching hands here.
Give it another try left-handed. Let's move right along now to one of the real keys to a solid finish, and that's a very, very good knee bend.
Yes, and what we try to concentrate there is we take the knee out toward the toe. It should be out equal to the toe, or out toward the toe. Instead of trying to keep from the knee to the ankle straight down, it's got to be forward, because we are leaning forward to throw the ball out onto the lane. We have a lot of people that hit the foul line and they sit back too far, or they keep back here and they have this knee back. We've got to get that knee forward. If you're having trouble with the knee bend, just concentrate at the finish position, put the knee out forward.
Coach, stay right there. Don't move in. Get right back into that position, because we've got a prop here for you.
Yes.
Make it easier for you.
Well, that feels good. Just sit in that chair.
That's how you want to finish.
That's it. We're sitting in the chair. All we do is get up a little out of the chair and kick that right leg back. We have to sit, that lower area, that we've got to sit in that chair, not popping up in the air, stiffening up the legs, pulling out of the chair. So sit in that chair, stay there, straight line, and watch that ball roll over the target.
Well, for 25 years you've been watching the best in the world. You've been experimenting, and I know that you're excited about one other aspect of the finish position, and you feel it's something that could add a lot of power to a lot of different games, and that's, of course, using that right leg.
It's a major key, Denny, to a lot of people's games of why they can't hit those pins hard enough. The reason for that is when we come into that lead step before the slide, or the one right before the finish, we have the right leg forward for right-handers, right? Obviously, just the opposite for left. And we kick off that right leg, and we use the pressure in that right leg to create more power in the right arm. When we get to the foul line, if we just let this right leg go limp, then the arm gets limp and quits. That's why some of you that have trouble with a good follow-through, work on putting some pressure in the right leg. Create some energy in the right leg, will create some energy in the follow-through.